Hello dear learners, it's Mrs Whitehouse here with another crafty make for you. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all enjoying doing some work at home from school, perhaps doing some reading, and then when you come along to my little crafty session, I hope you enjoy that too. What I thought we'd do this morning is a little mosaic rainbow, because rainbows are very, very popular at the moment, and we're putting them in our windows and we're putting them in all sorts of places. And mosaics are made up of little tiny squares, normally of bits of tile, because the Romans used to use them to decorate their homes and floors and all sorts of things like that. So the idea is you use all these little tiny squares to build up a picture. And our picture is going to be a rainbow. So I've got lots of rainbow colours here. I've got all the right colours of the rainbow. I'm using a solid coloured paper to make my rainbow. So the colour is an actual, so that's purple and that's blue. It hasn't got anything else on it. But if you don't have that, and it's not a problem if you don't have that, I can show you how you can find all sorts of other papers that you could use. So this is my lovely Waitrose magazine. So I've got some yellow there that I could use. And there's a lovely bit of red. So you can cut the pieces of paper that you want out of a magazine. There's a lovely green page somewhere. There you go, another red one there. So you can use a lovely green one. So you don't be frightened of the fact that you might not have papers that you can use. If you've got a magazine, you can chop them up. Obviously ask somebody first if you can chop it up, and then you could use those. So how do we start my rainbow? So what we need is I've chopped up all these little pieces of paper, as I showed you on the first there, so they're all nicely small. And a quick way of doing that, because it can be quite time consuming to cut up lots of little bits, you need lots of patience, but I found a nice quick way to do that. So if I show you my quick way, it might help you when you do yours. So I'm going to just show you on this white background here so that you can see it. I've started to cut, this is my dark blue, I've started to cut make like a little fringe at the bottom of this is a piece of card that I'm going to use on mine, or all your pieces of paper, and you will cut. It doesn't matter what size your squares are. You can choose to do big squares. Obviously you're not going to use as many, and you won't have as many to cut, but the little ones sort of fill in lots of spaces quite nicely, so it's quite nice to do. So when I've made my little fringe, can you see my little fringe there? I just go the other way and cut, and they come off as little squares. So that's quite handy. Okay, and I would suggest putting them perhaps in a little yogurt pot somewhere, because if you've got all these little bits lying about, they can easily be blown off the table, or the cat walks over it, or whatever. So if you put them into little pots, they won't be in as much danger of falling off somewhere. So how do we start my mosaic? So I need to have a shape to go around, so it would be nice if we had a shape. So I'm going to use my coaster. It could be a glass, it could be a bowl, it could be a cup, something that's round, just to make something, a line to follow. So I'm going to put my line here. Now I'm using a piece of ordinary A4 paper, which we'd use at school in the photocopier. It depends what size picture you want to make. So if you want a great big one, then you have to have more paper. So you could use back of a wallpaper roll or something like that. Obviously the bigger your piece of paper, the more squares you've got to cut, so just remember how much time it's going to take you. And you don't have to do this all at once. You could do it over a few days, and just keep coming back to it and finishing it off like that. So you don't have to do it all at once, but you do have to remember that whatever size piece of paper you've got, you're going to be filling it, so it's going to take quite a while. So my first colour is going to be my red, because that's the start of my rainbow. So I've got my glue, so you'll need a Prittstick or something like it. You can also use the white PVA glue that we use at school, and if you were going to use that, I'd apply it really, really thinly. You don't want a really mucky, runny, sticky sort of place to work in. So I'm going to start off with my red, which is going to be in here. So I just put my glue down onto the page. Okay, And then I'm going to use the tip of my scissors to help me put them on. A pair of tweezers is a good idea. Mrs Whitehouse hasn't got a pair of tweezers at the moment, which is a shame. So I'm going to make my first... You need a little gap in between them, so you can move them around a little bit with the end of your scissors. Okay, so just keep adding them on. Don't put too much glue on because it'll start to dry before you've got round to the end of it. So just put on little bits at a time and you can just keep going back to it. Now I'll show you what to do in that little space there because there's a little gap. This is lovely to do if you wanted to make a picture, so you could have a picture of a nice outdoor scene or something, or you could do a very large letter of the alphabet for your name. You could do a picture of a face. You could do all sorts of fun things with this. Now in these little spaces here, which are like triangles, I would cut one of my squares into a triangle. Can you see that? I've cut it so that it's actually in two pieces now. And this one will slot in, not very tidily, but it will slot in. There we go. If I turn it round, so you can fill in your little spaces. So you can cut these little squares down to smaller things to fit in, and they don't have to be exact. This is not an exact... The Romans used to use all sorts of little tiny pieces of mosaic to put in their floors, and they're absolutely stunning. So you could make a really nice picture. So that's my start of my red. I might do a second row of red on there. Let me move you a little bit closer. There we go. You might be able to see a bit better there. Right, so I might do another little row of red. If you only want to do one row of each, then that is absolutely fine. So I'm going to go around with my... I'm going to start my orange row now. You could fill in that whole part there if you wanted to. It's your picture, it's your rainbow. And I would go... Oops, I've got the wrong colour there. Okay, and I would just work my way around my rainbow. That one just doesn't want to stick. Okay, so just keep going around. And as it's a rainbow shape, I think it's a good idea to follow the lines. Otherwise you'll get, if you start further up, you might get yourself in a bit of a muddle. So as long as you're sort of doing your rows. So my next row along here would be my orange. So I'd start to come up here. So it's a lovely way of using an old wrapping paper. You might have some wrapping paper lying about somewhere that you could use. Bit of recycling, bit of reusing would be good. If I moved it up a little bit closer, you could actually see what I'm doing, which would help. Okay, and I will just keep going. Alright, I'm only showing, I'm not doing a completed one because that will take quite a lot of time to do that, and you don't want to be sitting there watching me. You want to get on and have a go yourselves. So I'm just moving around. Now, as you can see, there's one here that I had a little go at earlier, so I've gone a little bit further with this one. And so I've got my red, my orange, my yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. Now, as you can see on the end here, I had a little bit of an issue with this not coming all the way down here to make my second row. And if I'd have moved everything in a little bit, it would have been a little bit better. So if it helps you to draw your lines in, then you can either ask somebody to help you go around a plate or something like that. So if I showed you where I am here, so if I wanted to make a little... You can do this with the help of a plate or something that's a circle. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, don't worry about that. Lots of... Just so that you know where you're going. I'm actually drawing on top of glue here, which isn't very helpful. Okay, and you could draw the other one in. Where's the other one? Yep. So that's sort of where you're going with that. Okay, so this is your rainbows, your red, your orange, your yellow, and you would fill in all of those little spaces. And then if you wanted to, you could put a different colour at the very top here, because obviously it'll be a bit like a sky. Let me move you back a bit. No, other way. Okay, so you might want to fill in the top part with some other colour if you wanted to, or if you cut your rainbow out and then it's ready to put where you want it to go. But I'm going to spend some time in actually finishing mine and then putting it in the window, or put it in my car on the window. So that's just a nice little way of using up some little scraps of paper. It's a nice little activity for you to do when you're perhaps finished your work at school, or you've got some time to spend. Do it with a member of your family. That would be really nice. You could do some pictures. As I say, you can make it into letters. You can do all sorts of fun things with it. And you could even make some little tiny badges out of it. If you made some very small ones, you can make a little badge to wear with a little rainbow on it. So just explore it, have a nice time doing it. Spend some time together, and I shall see you next time for another crafty make. Take care, keep well, keep washing your hands, and remember to stay at home. Bye for now.